No. Deuteronomy. No, that's not right either. Do the wrong of me. What's the book called? Deuteronomy. Thank you. So our story today is from the book of Deuteronomy. And in the book of Deuteronomy, there are lots of stories about the people of God. And the stories help us to understand more about who God is and our relationship with God. And one of the stories in this book is the story of Moses. You might have heard of the story of Moses, or at least part of it. He was really bold and stood before Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go," and led to the freeing of the Israelites from slavery. So I want you to have a little think for a moment about everything that you know about Moses. Everything, anything at all that you might know about Moses. And I need to just get up to speed on Moses. So in a minute, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. I'd like you to shout out everything or anything that you know about Moses. And then I'm going to take it all in, digest it, and then I'll know all about Moses. So on the count of 3, I want you to shout at me anything at all that you know about Moses from the Bible. So maybe have a little chat, just check that you've got something for me. Are we ready? What do we know about Moses? Any stories that he was involved in? Ready? So you're just going to shout them at me, and I'm going to take them all in because of my brain, and then I'll know. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. Thank you. I know all about Moses now. Our story today is not actually about Moses. It's what happens after Moses. So Moses, towards the end of Moses' story, he finds out that he's not going to be the one that leads the people of God into the promised land. He's led them through the wilderness for years and years and years. He's done all of these things. And then he finds out that actually it's going to be Joshua who's going to be the new leader of the Israelites and lead them into the land that they've been waiting for. Now, Joshua would have known Moses, would have followed him around the wilderness, seen all the significant things that Moses did. And then one day, Moses says, "Right, Joshua, you're up." How do you think Joshua would have felt to have to take that on? Some big shoes to fill. And Moses knew that, and he knew a little bit about how Joshua was feeling. And so in Deuteronomy 31, verses 7 to 8, we are told this amazing blessing that Moses prays over Joshua. So it says, "Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the presence of all Israel, 'Be strong and courageous. For you must go with the people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors to give them, and you must divide it among them as their inheritance. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged.'" So Moses reminds Joshua of this awesome truth that God goes before him. God is already there. There's nowhere that Joshua can go that God hasn't already been, isn't already there, working, paving the way, waiting for Joshua to step into what God's already doing. So Moses speaks against fear and discouragement, which are things that we can imagine Joshua might have felt, and Moses would have known. But that picture of God going ahead means that God light has broken through any darkness, and Joshua is following in God's footsteps and in his plans. When we were camping at Greenbelt, it was really, really, really dark on the campsite. They had some lights up the main walkway, but when you went off into the bit where our tents were, there was no light around at all, and it was really dark. And every day when we had to get back from the main site to our tent, we had a pushchair with our baby in, and then a trolley with our 2 children who are capable of walking in. And we had to push the pushchair and pull the trolley through all of these tents to find the right one. And it was really, really tricky to find the way. I don't know if you've ever walked through a campsite at night, but there's guy ropes coming out from the tents, and you've got to step over the guy ropes. You've got to find a path that's wide enough for a pushchair and a trolley, and that you can get through and hasn't got any hidden dips. There was also a lot of animal poo on the campsite, so you had to avoid the big piles of that. So it was really, really tricky to find our way back to our tent when we wanted to go back. It was a lot easier on a couple of times where we were camping with some very helpful friends, and if one of them went ahead of us with a torch, it felt so much better to be following behind with our pushchair and our trolley. We could walk in confidence because we knew that that was a safe way to go. We knew that they were leading us into a safe way. They checked. There might still be obstacles, but they could show us the way around them. And we could walk safely and confidently in the path that that person has led. And that's a little bit like what Moses is saying here about God going ahead of Joshua. That Joshua could walk in confidence and safety without fear because God's gone ahead. And it doesn't mean that the path is always straightforward. Sometimes at Greenbelt there were uphill bits, there were lumpy bits to go over. But we had confidence in it being the right way because someone with that light was going ahead of us. So that's what I really want us to remember today. That when God goes before us, we can walk in confidence and safety and knowing that we're in the right way when we're walking with him. And we're going to think a little bit more about some things that might be happening over the next few weeks that might be new to some of us in a moment. But first we're going to sing a song about God being with us every step that we go. And you might want to remember a time that you've been on a journey and you've needed somebody to help you to find the right step. So we're going to sing together.